What's going on, guys? We decided to dedicate this entire show to all hot stove-related rumors. You're not going to want to miss this fun-filled episode. What's going on, guys? This is Doug. That's Mikey V. I'm coming to you from the cave here in Foxborough. Mikey V from Clearwater, Florida. And with the All-Star break, there's really not much to talk about lineups. So we decided to dedicate this entire show to hot stove rumors, trades, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. It is fun. I have 24 probably top targets for trades and whatnot. There's no rankings. There's no one better than the other. They're just 24 people that all have fantasy relevance. Obviously, if you want to go more, you could probably list 100 people that could be on the move. However, in the realm of fantasy, I would say these 24 probably have the most value. I mean, would you agree, Mike?
Yeah, I would think so. I think these guys are hot. We love talking about rumors. And, man, if some of these guys do move, what a difference they can make.
You're right. And let's just start off with like a heater, right?
Ooh.
There he is.
A heater.
Oh, what a heater, right? So we're talking about the Tigers, and of course they're 5.5 out of the division. They're 2.5 out of the wild card. And the other thing about this list is, and I was telling Mike before the show started, is a lot of these guys were taken off of ESPN rankings, CBS Sports, all different types of rankings as far as who would be on the move. But with that said, a lot of the teams that look to be sellers now are shifting to becoming maybe buyers, because teams like we'll talk about the Twins, the Red Sox, they're only a couple games out of the wild card. Like the Twins are, I think, tied for that last spot. And it's just, they're all a lot closer than they were a month ago. So when the All-Star break comes, maybe they'll be sellers like ESPN and all those other sports channels predicted. If not, maybe they'll buy. But I do think even if they're not full sellers, I think they'll still be sellers. And what I mean by that is like the Red Sox, yeah, they're really in the thick of things, which is surprising considering the horrible start. But I still think they're going to be sellers. I really do. I think, though, it's not going to be like, let's just cut it all down. It's going to be, let's strategically sell. Let's sell to build, if that makes sense. So I still think a lot of these guys will be on the move, but some of them might not be. And like I said, Tigers, they're only 2.5 out of the wild card. And we're going to be talking about 3 of the guys on this team. You have Tarik Skubal. You have Gleyber Torres, who's I know on the IL, but his numbers when he was healthy is really good. And Casey Mize. Now, the way this will work, we'll go over numbers. We'll talk about destinations. And then let's each figure out one destination out of the list that we think these guys would fit. So we'll start with Skubal, right? 5-4, 70 innings pitched, 84 strikeouts, a 3.06 ERA, 10 walks, 153 points, 12.8 to start. Not too bad, but again, that ERA is a little higher than what you probably would expect from a Skubal. He is probably the biggest trade piece out there. He's an instant boost to any team, and I know everyone's saying the Dodgers, but I have a very different scenario on this one. I'm viewing this as strictly a rental for this team. And who knows, maybe he stays. But doesn't the Atlanta Braves make a ton of sense? They're a team clinging on by first by just a few games after blowing this huge lead in the NL East. They just lost Spencer Strider for who knows how long. You have Bryce Elder hitting the wall. You have Martin Perez, who was just a throw-in in that rotation, now on the IL. They need a huge piece to keep them in this. And to me, Skubal would be that piece. He'd instantly take some of the burden off of Chris Sale. And then after the season, yeah, he probably does become a Dodger. But, boy, wouldn't it be fun to see him in a Braves uniform? And I know the talk of a strike will also hinder where some of these people go, because ideally a Skubal will want to sign with a team and will sign him long-term as soon as he goes and gets traded to that team. So as much as I hope he goes to the Braves, because I just don't want to see baseball get ruined by going to the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers are really an inevitable team, and the Phillies. Dodgers, Phillies are in it, but I think the Braves to me make the most sense for Skubal just because what they need. It just they're built to win now. You'll have, you'll have Acuna Jr., Ronald Acuna Jr. coming back. That lineup will be going again, and you need an ace. You don't need a 2 or 3. You need a 1A and a 1B to go with Chris Sale. And to me, this makes the most sense. But sometimes it doesn't work like that. So what do you think, Mike? Where do you see him?
I know, and the thing is with these rumor scenarios, it's just like it's fun. Like we're not going to go into detail about prospects and who they should be trading for prospects or anything like that. We're just talking about who fits where, right? And like you said, I think Atlanta might be the best spot for him. And like you said, if he's going to be looking for a contract extension at the same time, I mean, Sale's 37 years old, man. Like we love Chris Sale in this program, right? But he's 37 years old. So they're going to have to start thinking of their future, especially when that rotation comes through. What they've had so far in this rotation with Spencer Strider, Spencer Swellenbach, Bryce Elder, those 3 guys equals inconsistency to me, whether if it's injury prone or their production that they've been doing this so far. Skubal would stabilize that rotation, not just for this run for this year, but man, for the next few years in that Atlanta rotation. And we've seen pitchers go to Atlanta and just like revive their career all the way back to Tim Hudson, right? He had like a second, regen over in Atlanta. So just a really good spot for pitchers. Skubal would be a great spot for that. And like you said with the Dodgers, maybe not the best spot. They do have Glasnow coming back. They do have Snell coming back. They already got enough pitching. I don't think they're going to have to go out and get a big name pitcher like a Skubal, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're still on the market for a pitcher if you're the Dodgers.
Yeah, and the Phillies kind of make a little sense too. I'm not going to throw that out there. Nola is not the guy that they expected when they signed him long term, and he still has. I mean, they're not going to be able to offload that contract. They're going to have to eat a ton of that money. But I mean, man, how fun would it be to see a Sanchez, Skubal, Wheeler rotation just go out there? I mean, you're talking hand him the pennant for God's sakes.
I mean, Jesus Luzardo in that rotation too, as number 4. Like, now that's a power horse. That would be quite the murderer's row when it comes to playoff runs. When it comes to that rotation,
yeah, fun to think about. But I'm hoping, fingers crossed. I do like the Braves. Again, probably won't happen, but I do like the Braves. All right, so we go from one pitcher to another. We talked about him on the live show Friday, right? Casey Mize, 4-6, 77 innings pitched, 77 strikeouts, 18 walks, a 2.79 ERA, 135 points, 9.7 to start. And there are a lot of teams that I think he could be a really good fit for. The Astros, the Rays, the Brewers, the Yankees, the Phillies, the Cardinals, the Cubs. Which one makes sense? I mean, oh, man. I know we talked about the Brewers, but I do think – like the Yankees or the Phillies make a little more sense. Just on the back end of that, he's not going to cost you as much as a Skubal would, nowhere near that. And I just think he could bring stability to, especially the Yankees. I think the Yankees need it more because you have Schlittler, who looks like he's kind of hit a wall, right? We know his innings are going to be looked at. Will Warren, I mean, Ryan Weathers has got to come out of that rotation. I mean, I think his ERA is like a 4.7. You do have Max Fried coming back, but now you got Carlos Rondon on the IL again, right? Garrett Cole is kind of because he's got the rust. Casey Mize would just slide right in that rotation, and he looks like the guy. You look at a Casey Mize, and the build to me screams Garrett Cole. He looks just like Garrett Cole, I think that would be a really good fit for them. I don't think it's going to cost them a lot. I would love that rotation. I mean, Garrett Cole, you got Max Fried, then you slide in Casey Mize, and then, Cam Schlittler, and then Will Warren. And then, you can even stretch it to a 6-man and just give everybody that extra day off because, you'll probably more than likely make the playoffs. I don't think they need a bat. I think their real address is going to be kind of working on this. Well, I say they don't need a bat, but then I look at how many runs they scored the last. They were in first in the East. Now they're about 4 games behind. So they do need a bat, but they don't need an outfield bat. They need more of an infield bat. We'll talk about later. But I do think this should be a really big priority for them, is to stabilize that rotation and get an extra arm in there, a quality arm, not just an arm, a quality. That's the key here.
Yeah, the Yankee, it's like the AL is so bad, it's good, right? There's so many teams that are still in it. And I still think Casey Mize, there's probably about 20 teams that could use a Casey Mize. I think he just fits the bill for a lot of teams, whether if they're looking for a young frontman rotation guy or just to stabilize a rotation, like you said. Yankees are a great spot for him. I think that he's a competitive guy. I think, what was he, a first overall pick, 5 years ago, give or take?
Yep.
And look, he's really just starting to put it together. Like you said, he's starting to really look like the ace that they drafted years ago. And now this is where you want to get your peak value. This is the highest he's ever pitched. This is the best he's ever looked in his career. This is where you have to move him at this point. So I do think he is going to be on the move. Yankees are a great spot. If you want to go smaller market teams, you can go there as well. I mean, I think this guy's going to be a little bit affordable, but again, he's still a little young, so you might have to give up a little something for him. I always talk about the Rays. I'm in Clearwater, Doug. I think the Rays need more rotation help. This could be one of those candidates for him. But again, it's going to be costly, and I still think you have to have a pretty good farm system in order for to pay the price for a Casey Mize. Yankees, probably the best spot. We talked about the Dodgers last segment. We just going to talk about him again. I mean, this is another guy that could also fit the Dodgers rotation where, hey, we need a guy that goes 6 or 7 innings. We don't know what we're going to get out of Glasnow. We don't know what we're going to get out of Snow when they both come back. Yes, they have the depth, but would this guy also fit the bill for the Dodgers without being a crux? They have a, James Tibbs III. What about a straight up trade for that? Because their outfield's already full for the future. I mean, just a thought out there. So, a lot of options, and I think there's going to be a lot of teams on a Casey Mize this year. He will probably be moved.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then last but not least, I know I just talked about infield help, and he's on the IL, but he is starting running progressions. He should be back maybe a week after the All-Star break, so sooner rather than later. Pretty good year for him, right? 280. I'm talking about Gleyber, Torres, of course, second baseman. 280, 4 homers, 18 ribbies, only 33 strikeouts, 26 runs, 102 points. He's giving you 2.4 start in fantasy. I know I just talked about the Yankees, but to me, this just getting back together, mending that relationship, he, to me, would be a perfect fit to go back to New York and give him that infield help that they so desperately need. He would be a boost in fantasy. He would be a boost in that lineup. Now you're really just waiting on Aaron Judge to come back. And again, that's a question mark. No one has any idea what is going on with him. I think they're going to do imaging on his ribs again, see if it looks as good as they think it does. And if it does, now he'll start doing some swinging and stuff. But I think the biggest hole for the Yankees, besides starting pitching, is going to be that infield production. And I'm not talking about Gold Glove production. I'm talking about offensive production. And he's been there before. I think he would be a great fit. Throw him right in that lineup. For now, I mean, you could bat him second or third and have, Bellinger bat fourth, because you're seeing all those people that were hot that is just starting to cool down. Goldschmidt, I mean, God, I think in 3 games last week, he got you 3 strikeouts, 2 strikeouts, and 2. -7 points. That's not good. That's not. And fantasy numbers are pretty relevant to real life numbers because that's what they go by. So if he's not doing good in fantasy, he's not doing good in real life. So I think a Gleyber Torres would fit the mold here for me, for them.
Yeah, I mean, they need the help in the middle infield for sure at this point in the season. We've seen how bad Volpe's been so far. And the thing with Torres, too, he could play pretty much anywhere in the infield. He could play third, he could play short, he could play second. So I think there's a lot of options for him as well. And where the Tigers are, that sounds like they are going to be sellers. One other team I thought about was the Seattle Mariners. They got Cole Young playing second. They got J.P. Crawford, who's kind of been on and off with the IL. And then they got Cole Emerson in there. I think there's room for Torres in there. They do need a contact hitter. There's a lot of strikeouts in that lineup. They do need more of a table setter. Randy Rosarino's taken a little bit of a step back since the beginning of the year. So a Gleyber Torres, again, middle market team. You're going to have to be realistic with like what your options are for some of these teams of what their needs are and who they're going to target. I think a Gleyber Torres could fit that bill for Seattle if needed.
That's a good call. I mean, I own 3 Seattle pitchers in fantasy, and I have not gotten a win from any of them, despite pitching pretty decent. So offense to me is Seattle's. If they want to go all in, they need to make a push. And we do have some other players that I think would fit that mold as well. So we go on from Detroit, and then we go to our old friend. Look at that. He's like, what are you talking about? Me traded? Like, great picture.
Again?
The Giants, right? 20 games and a half out of the division, 11 and a half out of the wild card. I want to say they're in last place in the wild card. They're going to be sellers. There's no hiding behind the bush on this one. They will be sellers, and they're going to try to offload a couple contracts. Now, first and foremost, I do have Devers on here. First, third DH. Kind of resurrected the last 2 months, give himself a little more value, gave a little more value for his trade market. So overall, 251, 19 homers, 52 ribbies, 48 runs, 110 strikeouts, 207 points, 2.2 a start. What makes sense for him? I would say a little of it might be dependent on what other teams do. And what I mean by that is, to me, Houston Astros. So if they go out and they do trade Christian Walker or, Isaac Arraez, he could fill that hole. They want to make a run. I mean, a lineup with him and maybe Yordan Alvarez, it's not a bad. And then you still have Jose Altuve, like your 3, 4, 5 hitters. That is a good lineup. Another spot that I thought of, and I don't know if they could take on that type of contract, because obviously the Giants are going to want some type of relief if they do move on from them. So whether it be compensation and some money or whatnot, Miami, the Marlins, they're making some waves, and they need a presence of a big time hitter in that lineup. And I think he would be fun to put in there. I think, I'm pretty sure Stowers is the guy there now at third, and he could maybe fill in, or he could be full-time DH there. I think he would be a pretty good fit offensively. I mean, as far as what he brings for like the dugout and that kind of stuff, I mean, he has an attitude that could do more harm than good to a clubhouse. So I think Miami right now is pretty good in the clubhouse. I think maybe adding him, he might be a cancer, but there's no doubt in my mind that if he does end up going there and he is moved there, he's an instant upgrade.
It's funny you said Miami. I was thinking very similar to that as well. I was like, what team is in need of some power that's playing really good baseball? And Miami does fit kind of that bill for it. Look, his contract is huge, and that's a big chunk that the Giants are going to probably have to eat. Like, they're going to eat it. And then there's going to be a team that is going to probably pay a little bit of money of that. When I say a little bit, it's a $300 million contract. They're not going to pay the whole entire thing just to get rid of him, right, Doug? They're going to have to probably pay at least 100, right? Maybe even half, maybe like 150 or so. And then again, like you say, he's a cancer in the clubhouse. So a lot of these teams that are in these races, the last thing they want to do is add a person that could disrupt their momentum at any point. So what teams do fit the bill for Rafael Devers? It's really tough to pinpoint. I go through the Central and NL and AL. I don't think anyone can afford him in the AL Central. I don't think any of those teams are spending any money. I don't think the NL Central might be his maybe best bet. Like, I mean, Matt Bush is like not playing that good of baseball in Chicago. So if they need like that extra bat, maybe they go out and get a guy like that.
A reunion with Bregman?
Back with Bregman. And look at that. He's playing first base for him. Whoa, what a coincidence. Full circle, right? Full circle moment. But there's just not a lot of teams out there, I don't think, that fits the bill for Devers. And I think the Giants are going to have a really hard time moving him because of that contract. I just don't know what's going to happen with him. And it's really up to Devers on himself to change himself, to show that he can be marketable and he can be an absolute asset for another team. I think this is a crucial next couple weeks for him, leading up to the July 31st trade deadline. He needs to show that he still has it, which we hasn't really seen too much of that this year. And he needs to show a good attitude, take the pinch runner when you can, that's those kind of things. Those things people remember. We talked about Valdez last year with the cross up. We still talk about that to today. Those are the type of things that teams look out for and they don't want any involvement with. So a Devers, Miami, yeah, great fit. But man, there's not a lot of options. I really don't think there's a lot of options out there, Doug.
Right, right. And that's why I could honestly I could only think of two. And one of them, like I said, Houston, is if they end up doing a trade and trading Walker or their third baseman Isaac Perez in Miami. Those were really the only two I could honestly think of that would he could just slide in, you know.
I just went through like 10 teams in my head just that would be contenders, and I don't see him fitting in any of them. You know, you could talk about the big ones. You could talk about the Dodgers, no. Yankees, no. Phillies, no. I mean, geez, like.
See, I thought about Yankees because first base. If he did go in and play first base, and you know that would free up. But again, it's like now he's playing specifically third because we all know that DH hole is going to be for either like maybe Goldschmidt or Stanton whenever
Judge when he comes back.
Exactly. So I don't think he'll see the DH. I think he's going to be primarily infield where if he does sign with the Yankees. So that's kind of why I was like, well, you know, although he would be a great fit offensively in there, I guess it does make a little sense. But it's like you said, though, it's the attitude. You know, I mean, the Yankees, that's, you know, and plus he played for the Red Sox. I don't know. Maybe he does want to go there. Just kind of stick it to the Sox and be like, hey, listen, I'm here. I'm going to crush you guys and make you sorry for trading me.
Very possible. Very, very possible. But like I said, you go through the rest of the teams and it just doesn't seem like there's a match. It just doesn't seem like it. You know, Seattle locked up Naylor. So they got first base covered already with that. They got the young guys already, like I said, and Cole Emerson that might be playing third base more often than not. There's a lot of question marks with Devers.
Right. So let's stay with the Giants and let's talk pitching. There's your boy, Robbie Ray, right? 8-6, 102 innings pitched, 90 strikeouts, 52 walks, kind of a lot. A 3.3 ERA. He's giving you 186 points, 9.8 to start. Not too bad, right? Solid. I do think he is a guy that is in need of a destination change for sure. Mm-hmm. I do have some teams that I have a list of teams, and the one that I think he'll best fit will probably surprise a lot of people because you got to look at affordability on top of that. Like I can sit there and say, well, hey, you know, Skubal is a good fit for the Guardians. Well, the Guardian, they're in the same division, and B, the Guardians don't have the capital. They never were a spending team. So what makes sense for Robbie Ray? You can go Astros, you can go Braves, Phillies, Rangers, Guardians. But here's this one. What about this team that came out of nowhere? What about this team that needs to give its fan base a little extra oomph, right? What about the Chicago White Sox? What about throwing them in there with Sean Burke, who looks really, really good? Davis Martin, who looks really, really good. Throw him in there with them. He's an affordable guy, a stable arm. They can go out, and I think pretty sure they have enough ammo to go to grab him from the Giants. And I think he would be a fun fit and build some excitement with that White Sox team.
White Sox is a great pick. Like they're in it to win it, right? This year, they're contenders. They're going to be there, it seems like, in September. They don't seem like they're slowing down at all. So, yeah, this is kind of the point in the season where it's like, if we're not pretending, we got to do something. And one of the things that Chicago definitely does need is to stabilize that rotation. Man, a Robbie Ray would fit that bill. Very affordable, innings eater, get you to the finish line, give you 5 or 6 innings, right? Like that's a really good fit there. I was thinking Houston as well. Houston needs some help with that rotation. Hunter Brown's got some dust to kick off still. We talked about that on Friday night, but there's a couple other guys in that rotation that are just not cutting it for the most part. So I think some veteran leadership would be needed in that rotation to help them get through for the AL West, which they're very, very much in. So a Houston, a Chicago's a great call out there. I mean, even for the Cubs as well, right? You know, they're having on and off issues with their rotation. Those guys don't go very deep in the games either for them. So another guy to add into that, a veteran leadership guy, I'm all about it. I'm all about the Chicagos. I'm all about Houston. And if he did go to a bigger market team, also wouldn't surprise me as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm trying to look at, because I don't want to leave out these small market teams. I want to, you know, if there's a guy who obviously is maybe not a top tier player, but a mid tier that a smaller market team could go out and get, I would like them to do that. So this is a guy that I would love to see the White Sox get. Like I said, usually that fan base hasn't had a lot to celebrate outside of like Paul Konerko Day a couple of years ago, and that was about it. So
Hey, that was a great day. That was a
I
great
know.
day.
So I would like to see him do that, and we also have a couple more players for the Giants on this list, and I'm assuming that they're just going to be all sellers at this point. I mean, they have to tear it down, not fully, but another one. I think this was a great signing for them, right? Jung-Hoo Lee, outfielder, 306, 5 homers, 33 ribbies, 46 runs, 33 strikeouts, 6 stolen bases, 100 hits, 214 points, 2.5 a start. What makes sense for him? We talked about the Mariners. We talked about they need a guy to get on base, to get the ball rolling, a big hit or miss team. I think he is the guy for Seattle for sure. You can even throw in the Guardians as well. There's a lot of holes to fill on that team. I think they'll get a big boost when they do get Jose Ramirez back. And I do have to say it was nice to see Stephen Kwan yesterday, a stolen base, a 2-run double. Like we talked about Friday, he's a great guy to buy low because I think Stephen Kwan's going to have a big second half. So my only hesitation with the Guardians, though, is Lee is just like Stephen Kwan. Very similar, makes contact, doesn't strike out, doesn't give you a lot of power. Do you think you can be successful with two of those type of players on your team? That's where I don't know. I think you do need one of them for sure, and that's why I kind of lean toward the Mariners because they desperately need somebody to lead off. Like J.P. Crawford, he's been swinging and missing, man. Everybody's been swinging and missing. These last 3 games, like I said, I had 3 starting pitchers from that team, and they didn't win any of them. They lost by a run, 2 runs. It's heartbreaking for a team to go all in with so much talent on the pitching side and just kind of fall a little bit with the offense. And I think he would be a really good fit. And I mean, I don't see him getting any better going there. I mean, I think this is the same production he would have if he does go there. So I don't think in a fantasy perspective, you're going to be losing anything. But I do like the Mariners.
Mariners a good fit. They need a table setter, like you said. They desperately needed a table setter, I think, for a minute now, even probably for the last couple of years. Another team, big market team, Phillies, right? They got Justin Crawford playing at outfield. It's kind of been up and down for him. Obviously, rookie season, obviously legacy player, Carl Crawford's father, but clearly needs some help in that outfield. I think he would fit that bill. Maybe he turns into a little bit of a platoon player, but if that's what they need to do in order to win, I'm kind of all for it at the same time too. So I think Phillies might be a pretty good pick. I was also thinking if they're going to make a climb back, probably not. They're probably going to be sellers anyway. We're probably going to talk about them in a little bit. The Cincinnati Reds. I mean, it's a fun lineup. It's an interesting lineup. It's not the sexiest name I know for a team for a landing spot. But with what the tools they got Sal Stewart. Ellie De La Cruz seems like he's bouncing back just fine. JJ Bleday plays pretty good outfield for them. So it's not like they have a bad lineup, especially at the top. I do think there's some potential there. And if they do start making a little climb back, they do have Hunter Green back in that rotation. Lodolo looks like he's healthy again for at least for now. Maybe they do make a little bit of push toward the end here. Just a kind of a dark horse team, I guess, Doug. Just to mix it up a little bit.
No, I do like that. That does make sense. I mean, you don't have to be in the playoffs to be buyers. That's the other thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then last but not least for the Giants, he's been talked about every single year. Why? I have no idea. I think he's a great guy. I think a lineup should go out and grab him and keep him. I mean, he's still in his prime. What is he, like 28? Plays first, plays second, DHs. I mean, Luis Arraez, man, 332, 4 homers, 35 ribbies, 48 runs, 16 strikeouts, 8 stolen bases, 119 hits. Gosh, man, 272 points, 3 a start. There are a lot of teams that make sense for this guy, but I narrowed it down to 3. I have the Rays. They do need infield help. I do have the Guardians because they need infield help as well. And I do have the Red Sox. And I have my fingers crossed that the Red Sox might be in this. I do. Plays first, plays second. I think if they end up keeping Contreras, who's been a pretty good sign for them, keep him at first. Durbin looks like he's turned the corner a little bit. He looks pretty good at third. Throw him in the second. Throw him in as a second. He can DH sometimes too if you want to start making a platoon position out of that second base spot. But they need a table setter too. They do. And Jared Duran isn't the answer anymore, unfortunately. He was supposed to be that leadoff guy, that Johnny Damon, like that old Jacoby Ellsbury type leadoff, that 5-tool guy. And he's not. He's really not. So they need a leadoff table setter. And I think he would fit the bill for that lineup. I think he really, really will.
Yeah, we talked about Casey Mize having about 20 suitors. This guy should have about 20 suitors too. And look, we didn't even talk about it yet with the Giants, but they got so much payroll on that team, and they're going to have to shed it. And I think we're going to talk about another guy on that team that's on this list too afterwards. That's also a $125 million man in Matt Chapman. But with Luis Arraez, I do think that the Rays are a really good fit. I do think there's some remorse of selling on a Brandon Lowe to the Pirates this past year. I mean, he's been pretty productive for them so far to this point, and that's something that I think the Rays are lacking at that position right now. I mean, defense is great, but if you're lacking a lot of power like they are right now, you know, it's something to think about, right? And then you have a Junior Caminero in that lineup too that has just been a monster, I feel like, the past 5 weeks or so. Man, it'd be nice to have some guys on base for him. You know, like a Luis Arraez batting in maybe that 1-2 hole, you know, Junior doing the 2-3 hole, and just having more opportunities with runners on base and knocking more guys in. You know, that's what you want to do. You want to make sure he's set up to eat pretty much. Another team that I thought about with Luis Arraez, again, he plays multiple positions too, Doug. He plays first base, he plays second base, and I'm sure he DHs as well. So very valuable bat. Toronto Blue Jays. I know it's like a little random, right? But again, they're going to be in contention. Their bats have been so-so to this point. I mean, Vlad's been okay this past weekend, but for the majority of the year, it's been a bad year for Vlad. And just in general, inconsistent in that lineup. They could use a table setter. They could use Luis Arraez. They could move him around the lineup. He could play first. He could DH. He could play second, like you just said. Like, there's room for opportunity, I think, there for him as well there.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call. I don't know if they would buy, but it would be an interesting spot for sure. I mean, he's been almost everywhere anyways. What's going to Canada?
Well, I was thinking too, like, he might end up on a team he's already played for all we know. Like, if you said Miami needs a first baseman, he can go back to Miami, you know? And then, man, he would fit exactly with Otto Lopez and Xavier Edwards. Like, they're kind of all the same type of player.
They are. So that's where I'm like, okay, well, the power's not going to be there. That's the only thing. They're not going to have power hitters in that lineup.
Yeah.
And I know you did talk about Chapman. I was just going to briefly go over him real quick. I mean, his number is 1.8 to start. He's on the IL, similar to Torres. A little after the break, he'll be back. As far as locations and where he would be a good fit, I'm trying to think. Like, I know the Phillies want to do something with Alec Baum. He's been a pretty big disappointment for them. And I think getting maybe a Gold Glove caliber third baseman who does have some pop and maybe bat him later on in that lineup, maybe after a JT Realmuto or, Harper or something like that, because I think Marsh is batting cleanup. I mean, that makes a little sense to me because I know they've been wanting to move Alec Baum for the last year and a half. So I do like the Phillies there. It's just I don't know what they would do with Alec Baum at that point.
Yeah, they're going to have to find a home for him. Also, for Matt Chapman, Yankees, again, they need a third baseman. Yeah. They need defense. The defense sucks. So a guy like that would actually fit the bill for him. Fantasy-wise, I don't think it would really help too much for him. Like you said, 1.8. But maybe for his career, maybe he sparks a little bit like when he was with Oakland, years ago.
Right. So speaking of the AL East, let's start talking about them. Let's talk about the Red Sox here. 11 games out of the division, a half game out of the wild card. They have some really big, intriguing pieces to move if they want to. And first and foremost, let's talk about Sonny Gray. 11-1, 95 innings pitched, 85 strikeouts, a 2.5 ERA. He's a top 10 starting pitcher in fantasy, 15.8 a start. It's insane. I say you keep him, honestly. I mean, you're riding the wave. You've made this comeback. You're in third place in the East after being in last for most of the year. Why would you want to ruin that and get rid of this guy? But if they do, there are locations. The Brewers, the Braves, and I did throw in the White Sox in there. But where he ends up, man, I don't know. I really don't know. I want to say the Brewers. He just reminds me of someone that would be a really good fit in that rotation. You know, you have him. You'll have Kyle Harrison, who'll be back from the IL. They do need to stabilize it, because every time I look, it seems like there's a new pitcher they have going out there who I have no idea who it is. Sprott. I'm like, who's this guy? So I do think they need somebody to fill that ace hole that, you know, I mean, you do have Jacob Mizorowski, but he's on the IL now too. Well, he's not on the IL. He's day to day. Let's just say that. But they do need somebody to fill that hole that Freddie Peralta left. And I think a Sonny Gray would be a good fit. Although, like I said, I say you keep him at this point.
Yeah, the Brewers are a really good fit. We're obviously trade partners with them. One team that really stuck out to me, and this could be a 2-for-1 here, Doug, is a Sonny Gray and a Jarren Duran. And Jarren Duran's been rumored with the Padres. And with the rotation with the Padres right now, I mean, Nick Pivetta, he's been hurt most of the year. He's going to be back sometime, late July, early August, give or take. You don't know what you're going to get from a Nick Pivetta when he comes back either. Same thing with Michael King, right? Isn't he back on the IL too at this point? So kind of an up and down season with him. So they could use some stability in that rotation. I think I just looked this morning. They're like 4.5 games back in that wild card spot. So they're very much in contention as well. They could use some fresh arms in there and, stable arms too. They got Lucas Giolito over there. But again, he's been hurt as well. So it's just, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right. And right now, Padres need pitching. And they have enough in their system to make a pretty substantial move, I think. And I think now with Sonny Gray pitching as good as he has, and then the Jarren Duran trade hasn't happened yet, and we've been talking about them and the Padres for a year or so, Doug. Maybe Sonny Gray is the one that puts it over, and we get the prospects that the Red Sox want back in that deal. They got some really good young guys that are in the top 10, that top 100 prospect class. So maybe that's what they want to do. Maybe they just double up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I said, I don't know if I would trade him, but that does. I mean, it does fit the bill from a fantasy perspective, though. I mean, I think Sonny Gray going to the NL and playing the Dodgers and playing. I mean, I don't think I'd like that. I don't think he would be a great fit for that. But
I wouldn't like that for fantasy.
No, not at all. Not at all. So you had mentioned the next guy. There he is, Jarren Duran. I mean, not a great year. 193, 13 homers, 112 strikeouts. Does have 14 stolen bases and 13 homers, like I said, 144 points, 1.7 to start. I know everyone was saying the Mariners last year and to begin this year, they need outfield help, but not sure why they would want to go out and get the same type of swing and miss player that they already have a ton of. So I was thinking maybe the Rangers, or I did put the Guardians, but now I'm like, I don't think he'd be a good fit with the Guardians. I do. The Rangers team is slowly making they're in first. They're quietly in first. And I think they do need help offensively. I think their rotation's good. Why not, if I'm the Rangers, go out and try to get somebody who does have some kind of pop, can steal some bases, not that top tier guy, but someone who might not cost me a ton either, and go out and get a Jarren Duran for the outfield. Brandon Nimmo, he's a little older. He's on the IL often, and it is surprising that the Rangers are doing this without, a Marcus Semien like they had, and without a Corey Seager. So it would be fun to see him go to the Rangers. I think a change of destination is something that he desperately needs. I mean, every other day I'm reading articles. He's getting in fights with fans on the stands. Like, he's got to be on the move. Like, I don't understand why they're just holding on to him at this point. I feel like it's just doing more harm than good, really.
Yeah, and with I think if Roman Anthony was healthy, this guy would have been moved, I think, by at this point, right? They got such a logjam in the outfield in Boston, and they can afford to move an outfielder, especially a Jarren Duran. And you nailed it. He's been stale. I think stale is the word for, I say, probably last like year and a half or so in Boston. And he's getting in fights and fans and stuff. That's not good either. We talked about Devers and his attitude issues and stuff. I mean, you could say the same thing for Duran if it gets over the top here, right? But yeah, another team I thought about, Doug, was Miami. I thought Miami might be a decent pick. Again,
It's fun.
Got young team, young outfield. He would kind of fit that same mold, like I said, with like Otto Lopez and Xavier Edwards, more trying to be contact, a little bit of pop in their bats, speed, is also a part of their games as well. So he would kind of fit that lineup as well. Guardians, I know, kind of a outliner, dark horse team type, but again, they could use some veteran bats in that lineup. Very young team, like you said, Stephen Kwan, maybe turning it around this weekend a little bit, but overall kind of been pretty mid so far to this point. So again, just a couple different options. I think the Miami one would be fun.
Yeah, I do like that one. That one kind of makes a little more sense to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then staying in Boston, of course, we talked about Chapman. Honestly, again, another guy you probably don't want to move. You probably want to keep. Does have 19 saves, a 2.28 ERA. He's giving you 3.8 to start, which isn't the best because he is 0-3. He did take a couple losses along the way. But overall, as a closer, 19 walks, 35 strikeouts in 27 innings. That's kind of what you want. To me, the most sense here is the Phillies. I think the Phillies do need that bullpen help. I think Duran he's on the IL. I think he should be coming back shortly, but I think they definitely need some help in that back end of that bullpen.
Yeah, I mean, I think every team is going to call for a Chapman. This guy is going to be a setup man, or it could be a closer. I mean, there's so many teams that could use him. I mean, I'm always on Tampa. I could talk about Tampa all day, Doug, but they could use some bullpen help in that back end. But I think of these other teams that are going to be right in it. Atlanta, they could have a trio, if they brought in Chapman. They could have Chapman, they can have Suarez, they can have Iglesias. Like, man, what a back end that would be. And then if you got a Chris Sale going, if they got a real another starter, they go 6 innings, then you have to face those 3 guys. That's pretty good right there. But he's going to be on a competitor, no matter what, whether if it's the Red Sox or not, Doug. I think it's Red Sox could not sell any of these guys, and they feel so good about everything on the way things going. Maybe they don't sell anything. And then all of a sudden, they're starting winning baseball games like they have been, and Chapman's in the forefront of that, which is also very good for your fantasy teams as well. And that's the thing, too, is like this guy could also be make or break. He could also get traded, be a setup man, and all of a sudden your league doesn't, give you points for sets. And now you're kind of just SOL with a guy that is elite, in real life, but in fantasy also could be nothing, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's why I never really liked the idea of building the back end of a rotation of a bullpen on all closers. I never liked that idea because when you're a closer, you have this set mentality where you're going to go out. You're the hammer. You're putting the hammer down. You're closing out this game, and you go from that mentality to now you're an 8th inning guy, setup role, trying to hold the game. It's a little different, and you've seen it work against a lot of these guys. I mean, Tanner Scott. When he was last year with the Dodgers, he was top closer with the Padres, signs that big contract, and then it's a closer by committee, and it kind of just ruins him, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been pitching good lately, but last year was a nightmare for him.
Yeah, you could say the same thing for Mason Miller when he got traded from the A's to the Padres. He wasn't in that closer role right away. They still had Robert Suarez in there. And he was setting him up. And a guy, again, over 102, 103 miles an hour, just absolutely electric. If you don't get the opportunities to get the points, you're, again, just SOL. You're out of luck.
Right. So we hope that doesn't happen for the Chapman.
Nope.
So let's move on. This guy's a little less wanted, but he does need to get moved. He does need to get moved. I don't care. Mariners, a game and a half out of the division. They're in a tie with the Twins for last in the wild card. And, of course, the man you see in front of you is starting pitcher Luis Castillo. Horrible, horrible year for him. 3-8, 87 innings, 81 strikeouts, 28 walks, a 4.9 ERA, 75 points, 4.2 a start. Just for reference, I mean, Juan Soto is giving you 3.7. It's insane. He's not going to cost a ton. I think if nobody buys him, they'll drop him. They will they have to. They have so much talent. He's cost them so many wins. I mean, they could be in first right now in the division. So, I mean, a couple teams that do make sense. I don't mind the Rangers. I think it's a good kind of buy low, stabilize the back end of that rotation. At this point, like I said, I mean, he could be that guy where a change of scenery just kind of reinvigorates him and he just comes out. And I think Texas, to me, makes a really good spot for him. Also, the Cardinals. I mean, he was really good with Cincinnati, pitching in the NL Central. I think St. Louis could use the help. Go in there, give him that rotation spot. Maybe he just lost confidence. You know, the Mariners, what they did to him, and let's take him out of the rotation. Let's have him piggyback a starter. Let's have a starter piggyback him. I mean, again, your confidence goes from up here to because now you're out, you're in, but now you're in the rotation, but now they're expecting you only go 4 or 5 because somebody else is going to take your, pitch the rest of that. So, I mean, the Rangers to me, really, really buy low guy that could maybe go in there and give them some help at the back end of that rotation. I mean, it's that back end of the rotation is pretty rough looking. Rocker just got crushed yesterday. I mean, he can't do any worse at that point.
No. And the expectation for Luis Castillo for a new team is a different expectation than we had when he was coming into the season last year, right? We knew he was probably going to regress a little bit this year. We did see a little bit of it last year, but not this hard. We didn't think it was going to be this bad. But when he goes to another team, he's just going to be an innings eater, right? He's not going to probably be, a number 3, number 4 starter anymore at this point. He's going to be probably a number 5, or, a team might take him and just say, hey, we're going to have you as our opener, or we're going to have you come in the second, third inning, and we're going to have you go 5 instead. That's kind of the role I think he's going to be geared toward. I don't think it was really fair for him this year. Like Seattle, like you said, they kind of been all over the place with that rotation on what they want to do with guys. Are they going to have them open? Are they going to have them start? Who's going to piggyback off of who? A lot of inconsistency. I've known in pitching, consistency is everything for a pitcher. Routine, day-to-day, what I'm doing. 3rd day I'm doing this. The 4th day I'm doing this. 5th day I'm going out there and I'm pitching. If you don't have the routine that you've been doing almost your whole entire career, it's going to throw you off. It has to. It just has to. So I think a change of scenery would be good for him. You mentioned St. Louis. Man, pretty good spot. We haven't even talked about St. Louis yet, but they should be buyers as well. They're right in it. I think 1 game back in the wild card.
Right. I mean, man, we're at the almost the 50-minute mark, and we're not even halfway done.
I know. I was thinking the same thing, brother.
All right, let's see if we can speed up a little bit. It's probably on my end. So Astros, 2 games out of the division, a half game out of the wild card. They do have a ton of stuff to sell if they do want to sell. I think Pena is going to be the big one. Shortstop, 294, 6 homers, 21 ribbies, 34 runs, 35 strikeouts, 8 stolen bases. He's giving you 2.7 to start. What makes sense? I think the Yankees make sense. I think the Rays make sense. I think the Dodgers make sense. And what I mean by that is you put Mookie back in the outfield where he probably belongs, and you throw Jeremy Pena in shortstop there. I think it's an instant boost to everybody in fantasy. It's an instant boost to Pena. It's an instant boost to Mookie. And then, I mean, their outfield is probably their weakest. So I think it just solidifies that team a little more for this run for the World Series again.
Yeah, that's a really good spot there. I'll keep it in the NL West. I think Padres also as well. You could bump X to second base, and you can slide Pena in the shortstop. And I think that would be an upgrade in that infield, which they desperately need. That's
a good call. And then we're going to stick with the Astros because they do have a couple other. And Christian Walker, little renaissance, right? A lot better than last year. He's got 20 homers. He's got 58 ribbies, 50 runs. He's on pace for a 40-100. 89 strikeouts. He's giving you 2.3 a start. What makes sense for him? And this one's going to sound a little weird too. I'm going White Sox. Move Vargas to third, which he does play. Murakami to first, and you DH Walker. Right now they have Grichuk and sometimes Benintendi in there. I think Walker, you make him the full-time DH. I mean, brings you the power you desperately – well, you don't desperately need, but he brings you a veteran middle-of-the-order bat. And then, of course, I do have the Rangers on here. They do need a pretty power bat in that lineup too.
Yeah, Christian Walker's a fun name. He's got a couple years left on his contract. I think it's pretty player-friendly too, right? Isn't it like $20 million a year? give or take. It was like a 3-year, $60 million deal. So pretty friendly deal there. I agree with those teams, honestly. I don't think there's really much else in the first base market that are contenders that need first baseman. I think of a team, I was thinking Cincinnati, but they're just really not going to be in the market for a guy like this. I don't think they're going to even pay for that anyway. I don't think they can afford him. But really, I think the teams that you said are probably the only ones. Rangers would make sense. I just don't know if he's just going to be in division with a trade. That's the only thing I got on that.
Yeah,
but it makes sense though. Like the fit makes sense.
Right. Yeah. I think that's what I was thinking of when I was putting these together, is kind of what makes sense and then going from there. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think they would, but it's fun to talk about. And then here's the other one. Come on. First base, third base, Isaac Arraez. He's having an all right year, 2.2 a start. He's got 12 homers, 47 ribbies, 39 runs, only 60 strikeouts. What makes sense? I think maybe the Red Sox. I know there's been a lot of talk about him, but Yankees, Rangers could be a fun place too. Cardinals, they're getting no production from Jordan in that third base hole right now. I think he could be a really good fit for that Cardinals team. And to me, I that's the one destination I'd like to see him go to is the St. Louis Cardinals.
St. Louis Cardinals makes 100% sense. This just kind of fit the bill. Blaze Jordan got called up, about a month ago, so Doug, and he just hasn't been it. Former Red Sox prospect also, by the way. But yeah, he just hasn't been it. And Wynn's been up and down at shortstop too. There's room for Arraez in that lineup for sure. He plays multiple positions as well, so you can definitely find a home for him in that lineup.
Right. Man, we're moving now, right?
We're cruising.
The Cubs. Again, I don't know if they're going to be they're 6 games out of the division. They're in first by a 1.5 in the wild card. But Seiya Suzuki, 269, 15 homers, 48 ribbies, 46 runs, 88 strikeouts. He's giving you 2.4 a start. Again, took a step back from last year's production, which we all knew was going to happen. What makes sense if they do end up moving on from him? I mean, you could throw the Mariners in there. You could throw the Rangers in there. You could even throw the Dodgers in there, which would be interesting. Where I would like to see him, I honestly, I think the Dodgers would be a really fun place for him to go to, I think, with that outfield. But I don't know. I mean, the Rangers are kind of right there too. That would be a fun one too. You pair him with like a White Langford who can hit the ball pretty well. And then maybe Corey Seager comes back, and hopefully those back issues, I don't think he'll be playing every day. I think they'll probably rest him every third day at that point, just because those issues just keep lingering. But the power could be there. Could make a really good run.
First team I thought was Rangers. I thought that'd be a really good fit for him. And look, he's been on fire, I feel like, these last couple of weeks too. I feel like he's been hitting the ball well. The power's there. I know he was day-to-day, but I think he was right back in the lineup this weekend. And I think he already had a hit, in that yesterday's game as well on Saturday. So there's a lot to like with Suzuki here. Rangers are a great fit. I always think, these offlandish teams, like I think like even like Philly, not offlandish, but a Philly would love a stable veteran outfield bat like that, I think, as well. Also fits the bill. I don't know if Chicago will trade him to the Philly, but again, just where do these guys fit in lineups? He would fit pretty well in that lineup.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about what they can get for him. I mean, Red Sox and Yankees made trades in the past. They're division teams. I mean, they weren't huge, sexy trades, but they were trades. So it does happen. And here's another team that is just surprisingly still in the thick of it. And man, I think we've heard that name for the last couple of years if he's going to be moved. I'm talking about Byron Buxton. So the Twins right now, they're 3 games out of the division. They're tied with Seattle for last spot in the wild card. And we have Byron Buxton, 3.1 a start, 7 stolen bases, 57 runs, 45 ribbies, 25 home runs, 83 strikeouts. He should be back a little after the All-Star break. I know he's on the IL. To me, what makes sense, I do have 2 teams here, but I'm only going to say one because now that I'm thinking about it, only one team honestly makes sense to me, and it's the Dodgers. If they move, it's the Dodgers. And the next player we talk about, you could do a 2 for 2 because I think the Dodgers are going to take the next player as well. And he'd be
how about we talk about that next player too? We'll double this up because I think you're onto something.
All right. Joe Ryan, 6-5, 110 innings, 128 strikeouts, a 3.3 ERA, 11.5 a start. Dodgers. I mean, yeah, you got Brewers, Braves, Phillies, Cubs. All those teams I think could benefit from Orion. But I think Dodgers right now, these two guys can fill both the needs.
I think so too. I think we talked about Casey Mize. I'm like, maybe Casey Mize might be a decent pick for the Dodgers, just because again, he's not like that number one guy that we're used to seeing them go after, like a Snell, like a Glasnow, like what they've kind of done already. I think at this point they need like a 2-3 type guy to come in to also eat up innings. Joe Ryan kind of fits that bill perfectly, doesn't he? I mean, man, he's not that ace that that I hoped that he was going to be longevity wise, but he's still a very, very good pitcher. And, man, he needs to get moved. He almost got moved last year at the deadline. It just fell through with Boston. This year, it seems like that's going to be the real deal. If you put Byron Buxton in that deal, too, we know the Dodgers love doing blockbuster deals. And, man, Buxton would look so good in that Dodger blue. He looked so good in that lineup. And there was no pressure for him either. He can have more days off in that lineup because of the depth that they got. They got Pages. They got Oscar Hernandez in that lineup. They got Tommy Edman that can play outfield too. I'm missing a couple more, right? I think Alex Call's still right there, right? So there's a lot of names. So you don't have to overflow him playing outfield either. You can also DH him, which is also a great spot for him as well. Man, great fit. Great fit.
Yeah, that is a good call to DH him because Ohtani pitches now. I mean, going forward, they had said they don't want him to hit and pitch at the same time. Mm-hmm. You go out and you get yourself a Buxton. Every 6th day he'll DH and take some time off. So that is a really good call. That is a great call.
It's a great idea.
Next up, we're going to be talking some Pirates. I know they're 10.5 out of the division, 3 games out of the wild card. I think they'll be sellers. I just do. But biggest surprise in fantasy right now, Brian Reynolds. 282, 14 homers, 58 ribbies, 67 runs, 93 strikeouts, 7 stolen bases, 2.9 a start. What makes sense? There's a couple teams he could fit the bill for. Dodgers, Rangers, Braves, Guardians. I honestly would like to see him with the Guardians. I think to me that makes the most sense. I think he is the type of player that the way he's hitting right now, it's a little bit of power, a little bit of contact. It's like it's not the extreme contact like a Stephen Kwan brings. It's a little less than that because there's power there. And I think that makes a little more sense. So if you do end up going back to the way things were with Stephen Kwan batting leadoff, how good would it be to see Brian Reynolds slide in that 2-hole, J-Ram in that 3, and then with 4, if you want to stick with Manzardo or DeLauer or DeLafter or whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I just don't know it off the top of my head. But just that 1 to 3 top of the order just makes so much sense to me.
Yeah, Cleveland's a really good spot for him. They could use a contact guy, and they need veteran leadership. Like we said, Stephen Kwan at this point hasn't been it to this point. Jose Ramirez being out, Ryan Reynolds could stabilize that. Another team I like too, Seattle Mariners. Seattle Mariners could use a guy like this as well.
Yeah, that's a good call with Seattle too. And then there's your boy right there.
Whoa.
Brendan Lowe, right? 282, 14 homers, 2.9 a start, does have 93 strikeouts, has 7 stolen bases, 67 runs, 58 ribbies. Actually, no, I'm sorry. I was giving you the wrong numbers. I was giving you Brian Reynolds numbers, if that sounded. So 2.6 a start, excuse me. Still 21 homers, 64 ribbies, 58 runs, 105 strikeouts. What makes sense for Lowe? We talked about it. Yankees, Rays, Rangers, Red Sox. I'm saying Rays. I think he goes back to where it kind of almost all started with that boom for him. I do like to see him in that Rays lineup. I think he'll add another dimension to Junior. I think he bats. You have Yandy if he does end up staying with that team, who we're going to talk about in a second. He bats your leadoff. As much as I hate seeing him bat leadoff, he does make sense for that role. And then you have a Brendan Lau, and then you have a Junior in there, and I think he just adds a little more depth to that lineup for sure.
Yeah, I go back to the West Coast. I go back to the Padres. I'll talk about that middle infield. He'd be a decent fit. Both those teams, I think, also would be great fits. I think I would love to see him back in Tampa. That'd be awesome. But the Yankees seem like a really good fit right there. That seems like the best fit.
I was also thinking Rangers. Just they need somebody to fill in that hole that Marcus Semien left when he went. And I think he would be a pretty interesting fit there because he does seem like a Marcus Semien type player. You know, the home runs are there, the ribbies are there, the strikeouts are there. That's exactly what Marcus Semien was doing back then. So very similar, very similar.
Yeah, I would almost say he's like a kind of like a Marte. 21 home runs, 68 RBIs. That's pretty elite for second base.
It is. It is. And this one, again, I'm not sure it happens. This is what they listed on ESPN. I don't know why they would move him, but they've talked about this for a couple of years, so it shouldn't be surprising to at least. I'm sure they're hearing offers. They're raised first in division by 4. This is, of course, first base DH Andy Diaz. He's hitting 320. He's got 13 homers, 55 ribbies, 50 runs, only 54 strikeouts, 2.9 a start. Again, what makes sense for them? This is a quintessential Mariners guy for me. I mean, they need someone to get on base. That DH spot is available. It's only, I mean, it's occupied by like Canzone, Luke Raley. I mean, these are guys that can play outfield. I think you put Diaz in there, maybe get rid of Victor Robles. I think that experiment is over.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, yeah, the Yankees and the Marlins. Yankees, again, that's in the division. They're probably not going to ever do that. But the Marlins would be a fun one. I think he brings another dimension with Lopez and Edwards. And that having those 3 in the top 3 of a batting order is I think is a little scary for pitchers because these are all contact, get on base guys. And the difference between Diaz and Lopez and Edwards is that Diaz actually has some pop. So he could end up with 25 plus home runs.
Yeah, Miami's a great fit, but I'm not even going to lie to you. He's not moving. There's no way.
I don't think so.
There's just no way. But if he was going to move, if we're going to do the hypothetical,
yes.
Miami would be a 6th spot.
Right. It's funny. They always say he's not moving, but they always talk about him moving. That's the weird thing. This isn't the first time his name has come up in hot stove conversations.
I don't like that.
It's not the first.
Tells me I'm missing something. I don't like that.
Right? So let's talk about the Miami. And, you know, again, I don't know if they're going to sell. They hold that last spot in the wild card. They're out, honestly 3 games out of the division, so they're still fighting for that. And Sandy Alcantara, pretty good bounce back, 13.2 a start. He's 10-5. He's got 130 innings pitched. He's only got 100 strikeouts, so, you know, the strikeouts per inning kind of went down a little bit. A 3.99 ERA, that's not good either. But he's still a rosterable. He's still a major league starting pitcher, and he's still pretty decent. He's good. What makes sense? What did I say before? The White Sox, right? It's time to splash. It's time to get fans excited. Eric Fetty, Noah Schultz, they're not going to win you games right now. I think he would be a really fun name to throw in there. You can also say the Guardians. You could say the Rangers. You could say the Braves, the Phillies, the Brewers. I mean, all these teams are looking for starting pitching help. I do like the White Sox, but I do also like the Guardians for some reason. I think he would be a really good fun fit there because they do need help in that rotation. Gavin Williams took a little step back, not huge, but a little step back. He's giving up runs, still striking out a ton. Tanner Beebe is not doing what they expected Tanner Beebe to do. So I wouldn't hate seeing an Alcantara in that rotation. I really wouldn't. I think it would be a fun thing for that team.
We always talk about getting a veteran in that rotation, and he would be awesome in that rotation, especially if they're going to make the playoffs. If they do make the playoffs, he would go out there game 1, and that's your number 1 out there. We talked about the Brewers earlier, you know, getting that number 2 guy, kind of replacing that Freddie Peralta. If you have Mize and a Sandy 1-2 punch going into the playoffs, that would be pretty sick too. And then that way you kind of alleviate some of the pressure off of some of the younger guys like a Logan Henderson and a Kyle Harrison and, you know, those type of guys. So if you have 2 studs like that, man, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch.
That is. Again, I don't think Miami is, I don't know. I think if they do sell, it's going to be one of those things where we're going to sell, but we're also going to buy, so that it's going to be a deal that's going to try to help both sides out because they're going to be thinking long term and they're going to be thinking of trying to make a little run here. Because, I mean, when's the last time the playoffs were really ever in the picture? It's been a while, right?
Well, we know Milwaukee has the prospects. They've called up 7 of them already this year. So they got the ammo.
Right. Okay, let's stick with starting pitching and underperformers here. And here's your boy Freddie Peralta. I mean, Mets
Whoa, speak of the
15
devil.
games, 15 games out of the division, 12 games out of the wild card. I mean, a 4.60 ERA, 6.5 a start, 104 innings, 104 strikeouts, 44 walks. It's not the Cinderella story everybody thought was going to happen when the Mets went out and got him. But I do think he will be on this. There's nothing that tells me he's going to get traded. He is. He's 100% going to get traded. What makes sense to me? Yeah, you can say Rangers. We can go down, maybe go back to the Brewers again. The Cardinals is a fun one. I think this is an Astros guy. I really do. You know, that rotation is a mess. I mean, Lambert's up and down. Amawi is up and down. And then Boros. Boros is Boros. I think you slide him in. I think he's a great right after, you got Hunter Brown, then you go Peralta. That rotation becomes a little more formidable, especially when the wild card comes around. If they do want to make a run for it. I think the Astros go out and they go out and get him. I don't think he's going to cost a ton. I mean, he's struggling so hard right now. I mean, if he was at like what he was last year and his numbers were the same with the Brewers, and you're talking about a high 2 ERA, a little over 500 game, like, 8-9 or 9-8 or something like that. Yeah, it's a different story, right? But he's 5-8, and that's more on the offense than his pitching some games. But a 4.60 ERA is not going to do him favors. I think you can get him on the cheap. And honestly, now that I think about it, yeah, the Astros and the Cardinals look pretty fun too.
Yeah, I think the Astros is a great fit. I mean, they didn't replace Valdez from last year in the offseason. They relied on Arrighetti so much earlier in the year. He pitched great, but he's obviously hit that wall. And we talked about Hunter Brown still not being Hunter Brown yet. And the thing with Freddie Peralta, too, when he does get moved, he's going to have to try to reimage himself because, like you said, the ERA skyrocketed. Poor year this year. We know he's good. Is he injured? We don't know that yet. But if he goes to another team, he can actually showcase himself to say, hey, I'm still the same Freddie Peralta that used to throw 200 innings and get over 200 strikeouts. He's going to have to do that somewhere else. It's not going to be with New York.
Right. All right. Here's a fun one. And this is your guy. This is the ads, right? So, yeah, the Cardinals, 12.5 out of the division. Only 2 games out of the wild card, which is very surprising. So, Adley Rutschman, listen, 253, 8 homers, 47 ribbies, 29 runs, 39 strikeouts, no stolen bases, 173 points, 2.7 a start. Now, what makes sense, and I do think he will be moved. I really, really do. They got that young guy, Samuel Basello. He looks really good. He's been hitting home runs. He's going to be their primary catcher once Adley does leave, if it is before the deadline or if it's in the offseason. So I think they're going to trade him. And to me, there is only one team that makes sense. It's the Guardians. It's the Guardians. They're only getting 209 average from Patrick Bailey in that catcher spot. Mm-hmm. Why not go out and get yourself a professional catcher that can hit? I think we say the Guardians for a lot of good spots for some of these guys. This one, to me, if you're going to go out and you're going to make a move, I think this one makes the most sense from an offensive perspective with the Guardians. I really do. I think he fits the mold in that lineup.
Yeah, Guardians is a really good call out. I do like the Rays in that as well. Surprisingly, Doug, the Yankees are actually in the market for a catcher, which I was really surprised about. I don't think he's going to stay in division, but just a thought. Again, Adley's a 1-year, what did I write down? $7.25 million deal for this year, which means a team's going to pay like $3 million for him for the rest of the year. They're paying pennies for a guy that's an all-star and 27, 28 years old. Like, this guy could be a stud for your team if he ends up going to a contender and then ends up just ripping it, just absolutely ripping it, because he can, and he has. What's he averaging, Doug? 2.7 per game at this point?
Yeah.
Just absolutely been having a comeback year, contract year, and then wherever he goes next, he's going to have to continue producing that because he still needs a contract. He's still going to get paid. So a Rangers team, yeah, maybe. Guardians team, more likely. Pipe dream, Rays. Unrealistic, but a good fit, Yankees.
And you know why the Yankees are? Because I think they want to move Ben Rice to first. They're realizing that Paul Goldschmidt is, it was a fun story for a month and a half, 2 months, but he's fallen back down to earth. Just makes more sense to throw Ben Rice over there, get a full-time catcher, and then try to, they're going to have to do something with that DH spot because right now it's just they got Ben Rice in there, but if they move him to first full-time, they're gonna need a better production from that spot.
They do, absolutely.
All right, so last but not least, bam, there he is. Reed Detmers, there he is. Angels, 10.5 games out of the division, 9 out of the wild card. This is starting pitcher, relief pitcher. Reed Detmers, 3-6, 108 innings pitched, 123 strikeouts, a 4.39 ERA. He's giving you 8.3 a start, 157 points, not sexy at all. What makes sense? You got the Rangers, you got the Rays, you got the Guardians, you got the Marlins, you got the Cubs, the Cardinals. What makes sense to me? Rangers. This is a Rangers guy. You throw him, you got DeGrom, you got Evaldi, then you got Reed Detmers in your SP3. That's a pretty good fit. That is a pretty good fit. And then you want to roll the dice with anybody else? Yeah, that's fine. I take it. I do like the Rangers here. I think he fits the bill for that rotation.
Rangers are good. I like that you said St. Louis in this as well. I think St. Louis might fit the bill. I don't know what the game plan is long-term for St. Louis for this year. I love their team. I love what they're doing over there. I think they're progressing well. I don't know if this year is going to be their year. So Reed Detmers, if you want to play pretender a little bit and you want to make a playoff run, Reed Detmers seems more affordable than trying to go after like a Sandy, right? Also a great fit. I think, the Cardinals seem like a good fit.
Awesome. So that's it, man. We went a way over time, but I mean, we probably could have went even longer just talking fits and this kind of stuff. So no qualms with that.
No. I mean, 24 players, right? There's going to be a lot more that could also be moved as well. We haven't even probably scratched the surface on some of the guys, right?
Right. They're just not fantasy relevant. That's the thing.
Exactly.
Or that borderline fantasy relevance.
Yeah. I think out of that list, I think the person that could potentially have the highest ceiling versus what they've been doing to this point so far is Sandy. If Sandy goes to a contender, I think that ERA goes all the way down. His whip is actually pretty decent this year. But man, if he can go into an organization like a Dodger organization or, a Philly organization for that matter, who knows? A lot of potential there.
Yeah, and I'll say on my end, if Buxton does end up getting moved, and let's just say he does go to the Dodgers, man, as a fantasy owner, you gotta love that. You have to love that. You really do. I mean,
sick.
It's got 25 runs now.
And Joe Ryan debut.
Yeah,
just like a number 5 guy.
Insane. And the sad part is it's all possible. It really is. But all right, man. For Mikey V, I'm Doug. This is Bourbon and Ball coming to you from FSAN. Don't forget to like us and throw some hearts, all that good stuff. We appreciate you guys spending this Monday morning with us. I mean, an hour and 15 minutes. Hopefully you listened to us on the way to work, made it a little more enjoyable. Don't forget, this Friday, we're not going to do a regular episode because, well, it is middle of the season, right? So we're going to be talking middle of the season awards. We're going to do an award show, mid-season awards. We're going to be telling you who we think AL Cy Young, comeback play of the year, MVP. We're going to go over stats for those guys and talk about who our first half awardees are going to be. So it's going to be fun. We're going to be live Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern time, of course. Come in, listen, throw something on the chat, throw some likes, do all that fun stuff. But until then, we will see you Friday. Good luck this week. I was just good luck this week in fantasy, but there is no fantasy this week until Friday. But hopefully you won, all right, for your week. So we will see you Friday live. So take care, guys.